It's not like he's a homeless boyfriend from high school. It's not like he's a brother working a regular 9 to 5. This is Sean Puffy Combs, the face of black music.
If he had been a boyfriend that just got out of prison, ex homeless boyfriend from high school, or whatever the said, welcome to Burbank TV. I go by the name of Charm. Today we're going to be reacting to an interview The Art of Dialogue did with Umar Johnson. And in this segment, they are going to be talking about the Cassie and Diddy footage that was leaked by the feds. He just asked them what he thought of the video. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. And ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Umar Johnson.
Shoot, what was your reaction when you seen the video of Diddy attacking Cassie?
Okay. The trials and tribulations of Sean Puffy Combs and the Cassie debacle. Here's what I'm going to say. I want to respond to your question on the Diddy situation morally and ethically, and then I want to respond to it legally and procedurally, because I believe they're separate. American law isn't based on justice. We know that. American law isn't based on righteousness. We know that. American law isn't based on morality or ethics. We know that. So I have to respond with the moral side as a black man watching a black man not only put his hands, but also put his feet on a woman. And I don't care what color the woman is. No woman should ever be harmed by a man. I don't care if she's red, black, blue, purple, or brown. No woman should ever be assaulted by a man. And I can't say that enough. So from a moral perspective, from a black man perspective, what Sean Puffy Combs did by not only putting hands, but also putting feet on that woman and then dragging her down the hallway is unacceptable. It is reprehensible. It was absolutely disgusting, grotesque, and to some degree, unforgivable. I'm 10 toes down with the black community on the fact that what Puffy did was without question conduct unbecoming a man, let alone a role model.
Totally agree with him on these points. And that's actually a first for me, because I don't agree with probably 95 of the percent of the stuff that he says. But I do agree with what he's saying right here in this first little segment part here.
You have no argument from me on that point. I want to be clear on that. Wrong, wrong, wrong. But now, I have to turn the mirror on Black America. And I have to ask Black America a very serious question. Are you really against domestic violence?
Yes.
Or are you simply glorying in the downfall of a very successful rap mogul, and you're using the domestic violence incident as a justification to celebrate his fall from grace?
No.
And the reason I have to ask this question, Art, is because 40% of black women in America are domestically abused every day in this country. 40%. That's almost half the black women in this country are victimized by their lovers.
Well, he's wrong on that. The number is 35% of all women in the country. See, this is the thing that he likes to do. He will tell you a bit of truth. Let's put it this way. He will tell you a lie wrapped in the truth. You get what I'm saying? He mixes the truth with a lie to try to get his lie over more. You know what I mean? Like, you could look it up yourself. You could Google it. The number is 35% of all women that in the United States. That spans all ethnic groups, not just black women.
their husbands, their boyfriends, their baby dads, their fiancés. So if black men are appalled by Puff Daddy's behavior, if black women are appalled by Puff Daddy's behavior, why do we have so much domestic violence in the black community? Let me ask it another way.
So is he trying to say that because other people are doing this, that we can't be mad about what we saw in that video? That makes absolutely no sense. None whatsoever. That makes no sense.
You want Puffy to suffer for what he did, and he should. But did you call the police when you heard your son beating his girlfriend up upstairs? Did you call the police when you heard your nephew choking out his girlfriend last week? Did you call the police when you heard your grandfather smacking up your grandmother in the back room? See, I cannot condone hypocrisy, Art. I can't condone hypocrisy. If we are this adamant against domestic abuse, why is it so prevalent in the black community? Do you know that a black woman is 3 times as likely to be murdered by her romantic partner than a white woman?
Okay, so sadly, he is wrong on this number as well. And the reason I say sadly is because it's actually higher. It's actually 6 times. According to what I read, it's 6 times more likely to be murdered by a spouse, former spouse, what have you.
Three times as likely. And I don't have to tell you, you watch the news. This whole year has been a killing spree against black women. I've seen more black women murdered this year by their baby dad, by their estranged husband, by the fiance, more this year than I've seen in quite some time. You have white men who are taking.
Well, statistically speaking, most murders are performed by somebody close to the victim, i.e., a spouse. That's why when you're watching the First 48 or any true crime show, even some of the drama shows, they always investigate the spouse or estranged spouse or ex-spouse, however you want to put it. They always investigate them first. There's a reason for that. It's because they're always most of the time it's the spouse that did it. Watch Dateline. You see that all the time.
Taking black women on dates, beheading them, chopping their body parts up and distributing them all over the town, as was just happened in Ohio a few weeks ago and elsewhere in this country.
Okay, what he is referring to here is a white man and a black woman went on a date, and the man killed her and dismembered her and hit her body. And that part is true. It didn't happen in Ohio. It happened in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That part is true. That did happen, unfortunately.
It has been nothing but a homicide year for black women. Femicide in our community is a major problem. So if we are that in agreement.
So I don't think the good doctor is using femicide in the right context here. When a man goes and kills, when a man goes and does something to his baby's mother or wife or girlfriend or whatever that results in her expiring, that's not femicide. If he does it because of child support or they're going through a divorce. He's trying to get custody, or he doesn't want to come up off some money. That's not femicide. That's not what femicide is. He's a doctor, a PhD in psychology. You would think he'd know what it is if he's going to use the word. Femicide is when a man, particularly a man, murders a woman only because she is a woman. I.e., he hates women. So he murdered her because he hates women, because she's a woman and he hates women. That's what femicide is. Not because some guy got mad because he didn't want to pay child support.
Against the abuse of black women, why is it so prevalent? Black women, when you find out your son, your nephew, your uncle, your brother, your father is beating on their women, have you called the police? Black men, when you find out your son, your nephew, your father, your uncle, your brother is beating up on black women, do you chin check him? Do you grab him by the collar? Do you pull him out the house and give his ass a good stomping that he deserves? No, you don't. You know what we do, Art? We turn the other cheek. You got black women being beat up in black churches. You got black women being abused.
Who's getting beat up in church? Has anybody heard that? I haven't heard that. In church?
In the masjid, Jehovah Witnesses, all organizations. You can't name me an organization, Black Conscious Movement, mainstream Black America, Black church, Black masjid, fraternity, sorority, Masonics. I don't care what it is. Black women are being beat.
So black women are being beat at fraternities. Black women are being beat at sororities. Black Masonic women are being beat. Women ain't allowed to be Masons. What is he talking about? You can't be, women aren't Masons. You could be, what is it, Order of the Northern Star? But you can't be a Mason if you're a female. So how are females getting beat at Masonic temples?
Black pastors are beating up their women and everybody's turning a blind eye. So to me, although Puffy needs to be held accountable, I would have to charge Black America with being guilty of hypocrisy, because too many black women are being beat down and murdered every day in this country. And I do not see the outcry for them like I see the outcry for Cassie.
So wait a minute. Well, we can't have an outcry for Cassie because other people are abusing other women. Make that make sense, bruh. Like, make that make sense. When we found out what Fantasia went through, people were upset about that, right? What about when we found out what happened to Mary J. Blige back in the day? People were mad about that, right? How did he go from answering the question how he felt about the Cassie and Diddy tape to criticizing the black community, to trying to guilt people into not feeling bad for her? And he says that he's not defending Diddy, but he's trying to guilt trip people for feeling bad for her.
And let me go a step further. Let me go another point. Because we're dealing with the hypocrisy of this. I am not defending Sean Puffy Combs. I can sit here and tell you
it sure sounds like he's defending Sean Puffy Combs.
Presence of my ancestors and in the presence of the Almighty, brother, I have never put my hands on a woman in my life. There's not a woman on this earth who can say Dr. Umar physically abused me. I could never do that, because I've seen domestic violence in my own home growing up as a child. I know what it is, brother. And because of that.
But what does this have to do with the Cassie and Diddy situation?
I promised myself I would never put my hands on a woman. But here's another question I got for Black America. If you care about domestic abuse so much, why were you absolutely quiet when the New York appeals court overturned Harvey Weinstein's conviction? Harvey Weinstein, who was accused of sexually abusing more than 100 women, plenty of them were black. And guess what? His conviction just got overturned. I ain't heard a word from nobody on YouTube.
Nope.
I ain't heard a word from nobody on YouTube. And Harvey Weinstein's attorney just said that because the New York case was overturned, Harvey Weinstein is still in jail for the Los Angeles conviction. But his attorney said circumstances involved in the New York case that was just overturned could lead to his Los Angeles conviction also being overturned, which means Harvey Weinstein could be set free someday soon. Why?
No. No. Wrong again. Wrong again. Yes, Harvey Weinstein's New York case was overturned because they ruled that the judge who presided over that trial allowed testimony from witnesses that shouldn't have been allowed to testify because they had nothing to do with the case. It does not affect the California ruling. He is still going to do 6 years. It cannot and will not affect it. And his case is overturned. It wasn't thrown out. They just rescheduled the case. He's getting a new trial, in which case he's probably still going to be found guilty.
Why isn't Black America talking about that? Why isn't Black America talking about that? Are we really?
Oh, and it was 87 victims. None of them were black.
Against domestic violence? Or are we just celebrating the downfall of a great black mogul? Let me go another step. The Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church. Are you aware that the Roman Catholic Church has admitted to at least 11,000 separate sexual assaults of Roman Catholic priests upon innocent children? Let me say,
yes, 11,000 cases since 1980. Yes.
that again.
What does that have to do with the question?
11,000 separate sexual assaults against innocent children by the priests of the Roman Catholic Church. At least 4,300 priests are involved. 11,000 acts of child sex abuse in the Roman Catholic Church. At least 4,300 priests are involved. If we are against domestic violence, Art, can I ask you a question? Why do we still have 3 million American African Catholics in the United States of America? How in the hell do you go back to Catholic Mass, black people who claim to be against domestic violence? How do you go back to Catholic?
So if you're against domestic violence, you're Catholic, you can't go to church because of what a priest is doing 2 states away? And your priest has nothing to do with it. And it's obvious the Catholic Church does not condone it. I'm not Catholic, by the way, but the Catholic Church does not condone it. So my Catholic friend can't go to church because they don't agree. They don't believe in domestic violence, or DV. But a priest 3 states away is doing something to some kids that he shouldn't be doing and is going to go to prison for. Why does that make sense? And what does that have to do with the question?
Catholic Mass. How are you still a member of the Roman Catholic Church when over 11,000 separate incidents of child sex assault involving over 4,300 Roman Catholic priests? You claim you don't support domestic violence, and you still belong to a church that admits to over 11,000 acts of it. Will the real hypocrite please stand up? Will the real hypocrite please stand up?
See, that's what I'm saying. He's trying everything in his power to make people feel guilty for feeling some type of way about that video. But yet he says he's not defending Diddy. So what does he call this? I call it defending. What?
If we against it, why so many women being beat? Why are so many women being killed by their lovers? Why aren't their girlfriends saying anything? Their cousins aren't saying anything. Their next door neighbors aren't saying anything. Women in the congregation, men in the congregation aren't saying anything. If we hate domestic violence, why are black women the greatest victims of it? Or do we only care when it's a light-skinned celebrity involved?
Fantasia ain't light-skinned. People cared. Hey, people care about Celie from The Color Purple, and that's not even a true story. What is he talking about?
And let me go a step further, Art. I got to go a step further. I gave you my moral answer. I want to switch to the legal. Cassie settled with Puff for 30 mils, which she took back to her white husband. If I were speaking with Cassie, and I want to be clear, I would never blame her for what she went through. I know what survivor's remorse is all about.
Oh my God.
I am in the field of psychology. I would never blame her or try to scapegoat her for what Puffy did to her. I would never do.
A, he's not in the field of psychology. He doesn't have a license to practice. B, I'm pretty sure he used that in the wrong context as well. So it's actually called survivor's guilt. And it has nothing to do with DV or SA. What survivor's guilt is, say you're in a group of people, 2 or more, and an incident happens. Some people from that group die. The survivors feel guilty because their friends died. And they didn't. That's survivor's guilt. Not survivor's remorse. It has nothing to do with the Cassie and Diddy situation. It has nothing to do with why she couldn't come forward sooner. That's what he's about to go into, by the way.
Do that to any woman. But if I were talking to Cassie, I would ask her this though. Sister Cassie. And I don't know if she identifies as black or mixed race or whatever bag she in. She definitely bunny hopping right now. But this is what I would ask her. Was this about justice or was this about money? Because when you were with Puffy, because he's Sean Puffy Combs, you could have went into any police precinct. You could have picked up the phone and called any criminal defense lawyer in America and told them, I'm Sean Puffy Combs' lover, and I am afraid of my life because he is abusing me on a regular basis. Do you know how many lawyers would have jumped at an opportunity to not only put him behind bars, but also get her a payday? I'm talking about when it was happening.
Oh my God. All right. At this point, I think it's safe to stop calling him doctor. He says she could have called any criminal defense lawyer and they would have been more than happy to get Puff arrested for her and then turn around and sue him for her. That's not how that works. Criminal defense lawyers don't put people in jail. They don't sue people. They're just that. Criminal defense. They defend criminals. They keep criminals out of jail. She would have had to call the DA. And the DA is not going to do that without any evidence. And him saying that she could have just went into any police station. Why did the feds not tell their door kickers who they were raiding until they got to the house. Because it's been alleged that Puff has law enforcement on payroll. Not to mention all the other allegations against Puff about people being taken out by trying to expose Puff. She could have, for all she knows, she could have walked into a police station just like he said and talked to a police officer that had just happened to be on his payroll, and she could have disappeared right then and there. Or who knows? He might have been threatening her family or friends and stuff like that too.
She could have got justice immediately when it was happening. So if I was talking to my sister Cassie, assuming she claims to be black,
and he's also saying he's okay with her suing him in the moment at the time it was happening. But once again, how is she going to do that without proof? Got to remember, the videotape that we saw, the footage that we saw, she didn't have that footage. He paid $50,000 to the hotel, so he had the footage. But somebody held on to a copy for 8 years and then sent it to her. That's when the lawsuit came out. That's a whole different story, because somebody else held onto that video for 8 years and then decided to give it to her.
if I was talking to my sister Cassie, is this about justice or is this about money? Because if this is about justice and protecting sisters from domestic abuse, why didn't you run him to the police when you were still with Puffy? Why are we just now hearing about this 8 years later or however many years after the fact? Why did you wait until you married a white man and then came back to get the black man's money? Was this about money or was this about justice? I'm not shaming her. I'm simply.
Now, this, to answer, I'm going to bring in a little help here. To answer his question as to why she could not go to the police right away. And Tisa Tells did an interview a few weeks ago with Tiffany Red. Tiffany Red is a songwriter who wrote for Cassie.
That's powerful.
That wrote for Cassie and was her manager at one point in time. And was witness to some of the things that are alleged against Puff. So we're going to go ahead and play this interview. I will link this. It's actually like a 2-hour interview. It was pretty interesting. I'm going to put a link to this whole interview down in the comment section, along with the, down in the description, along with the Umar Johnson video.
You're going after somebody that's powerful, like Puff. You're going against his influence, his fame, his political ties, his street ties. Like all these people that are like, why didn't you? We wasn't like, we in LA. What are you talking about? Like, I'm not stupid. Y'all saw what Lil Rod alleges about
G.
And so and LAPD and all of that. And so it just is like, what?
So for you guys that don't know what she's referring to, in Little Rod's lawsuit, there's an incident with a gentleman named as G. For some reason, they're keeping his name hidden. He was in a recording studio, Chalice Record Recording Studios in Los Angeles. He walked in, G was in a bathroom with Justin and with Diddy. Little Rod says he heard gunshots. He walked in, Diddy and Justin left. He walked into the room. This guy was bleeding out. The police was called, right? All this stuff happened. He said that the LAPD did not really investigate. They lied about what was going on. And after that, it was covered up. Now, the odd thing is I did my own little research on that. Okay. And nobody really knows what happened except for the people there. But anytime there is a shooting, especially suspected gang related, and there is a celebrity involved instead of a rapper, it is splashed all over. If you even Google
It was
shooting
nowhere.
yeah, it was. I found one on like the local Fox channel thing, and it was just a little blurb. There was a shooting, police are investigating, and it was nowhere. So it leads me to believe that, yeah, he had the media on lock. We see right now with TMZ, he has it on lock. Diddy is connected.
So you see why she couldn't just go to the police right away. You see that, right? You guys heard that. He had LAPD on payroll. Puff is well connected. Has been for a long time. Now, if you read through her affidavit from the lawsuit, which is basically just telling her side of the story, and if you listen to Tiffany Red, if you go and watch this whole interview and you listen to Tiffany Red, you will understand that Puff was paying people to follow her when he wasn't around. He was paying people to watch her and to report to him what she was doing, where she was, who she was with, what she was wearing. So if she goes to the police station or calls the police, he's going to know immediately. And they're going to cover it up, just like they did the shooting. That's why she couldn't go to the police right away. That's why the other reason, like I already said before, she couldn't sue him right away because she had no proof. It would have been her word versus his. Whose word pulls more sway? He's a billionaire. Not to mention, she was 19 when they first got together. He was almost 40. He signed her to a 10-album deal. He basically owned her car, her apartment, all his. He paid for all that stuff. So when she had to leave, or when she wanted to leave, she had to leave everything. Like everything. And do you know how hard it is to do that? To just drop everything and leave everything to start completely over. That's a hard thing to wrap your mind around. That you can actually do that. Let's finish this interview with Jermaine here. We're not going to call him doctor. No.
Simply saying, I'm confused. Because if this is about women's rights,
we know you're confused. You're very confused.
In protecting women, why didn't you run his ass into the police back when this was happening? It's not like he a brother who just got out of prison.
One thing, she never said it was about protecting women or women's rights. Why is he assuming that that's what this was about? That's not what this was about. This was about her getting her justice. Not justice for everybody, for other people, her justice.
Art. It's not like he's a homeless boyfriend from high school. It's not like he's a brother working a regular 9 to 5. This is Sean Puffy Combs, the face of black music, who was a mogul before Jay-Z became a mogul. She would have had no problem embarrassing him, holding him accountable, getting him charged.
Think about that. Think about what he just said was ass backwards. Ass backwards. If he had been a boyfriend that just got out of prison, ex-homeless boyfriend from high school, or whatever the fuck else he just said, it would have been a lot easier for her to escape the situation. But because he is Sean Diddy Combs, black billionaire mogul before Jay-Z. Yes, it was extremely hard for her to leave. Y'all, some of y'all watching this video support this guy. Some of y'all watching this video support this guy. How? How can you support this guy when he's spewing stuff like this? It doesn't even make sense. Like, critical thinking, please, somebody.
Or convicted, but she waited it out. She waited it out. And after she finally left that situation, thank God she did, moved on, got her white husband. She comes back to get 30 million. Is it justice or is it extortion? Is it justice or is it extortion?
One more time.
Is it justice or is it extortion? And here's the point I want to make, and I'll close on this point.
Oh, God. Okay. She didn't just leave Diddy and go run into a white guy. Okay? That's not what happened. And even if it did happen, so what? What happened was she dated other people. She dated black men. Guess what? They got ran off because Diddy was threatening to kill them. Hell, he tried to kill. Wait a minute. One of them did die. One guy that she was messing with did die. He was a music exec. He blew up Kid Cudi's car for being in a relationship with Cassie after him. What is this guy talking about? He is totally off base with this. Totally off base. Just like with most of his stuff, he is totally off base.
I'm concerned, Art, because I'm seeing the white power structure go after wealthy black men with old, outdated accusations of domestic abuse and sex abuse. Don't get me wrong. I don't trivialize sexual violence against women. I don't trivialize domestic violence against women because our women suffer from it the most.
He just spent what? 13 minutes trivializing it.
I don't trivialize it. I don't make light of it. But to have these women come back 8 years later, 10 years later, Bill Cosby 40 years later, for financial demands for money, or try to get somebody incarcerated decades after, years after the offense, when you chose to do nothing at the time with celebrity men. I'm not talking everyday men, Art.
Now, a lot of times when these lawsuits come out and they're alleging something happened years ago, I do myself tend to kind of give them a side eye. Like, yo, why didn't you report this sooner, or this, that, and the third? But at the same time, in this situation, there's proof. It's not her word versus his. And then, honestly, a lot of the situations that do end up being true, that's what it was. It was a lack of proof. And somehow some proof came available. Now, as far as him saying the white power struggle out to take down wealthy black men, I will say it does seem like somebody wants Diddy's downfall. Somebody very powerful wants Diddy's downfall. Because where was that video footage for 8 years? Who sent it to her? Which we're glad they did. They needed to. They should have sent it years ago. I agree with him on the part that somebody is out there trying to get Diddy, but it's well deserved. It's a bed that Diddy made himself, along with some of the other these other celebrities and entertainers come or got stuff coming too. Now, think about what Tisha Tells and Tiffany Reed were saying about LA, about the law enforcement in LA, the media in LA. What other things happened in LA that involved Puff that didn't get investigated or got covered up. Think about it. Critical thinking. Do think about some of these things. I can think of two major ones. One of them I'm pretty sure we're all thinking about. The second one just happened recently. It didn't really have any kind of link to Puff besides one of his very good friends who's also a powerful entertainment mogul. It has a link to him, and they all have links to law enforcement in LA. But I'm gonna let y'all try to guess what I'm talking about there. So, anyways,
We're talking celebrity men who have a lot to lose. I just can't sit by as a black man and say I'm okay with the legal system letting these women pop up whenever they feel like it 5, 10, 30, 40 years later and say he did this to me and I want money even if he can't get jail time. If you really cared about justice, you would have brought suit against that black man before the statute of limitations expired.
The apology video. What did you think about the apology video?
You got to have proof to do that. She didn't have the proof. And if you also read through that affidavit, now you got to remember the affidavit came out before the video did. The affidavit actually sheds light on what happened in that hotel. That was one of his freak offs that she was trying to run from.
And do you think the apology video was a good idea?
I do not think the apology video was a good idea because, number one, nobody's going to believe it, even if it's sincere.
Because it's not sincere.
I have trouble believing it if it was sincere because of what he has to lose. Why wouldn't you do an apology video? Isn't that the first thing your lawyer or publicist makes you do?
No. The first thing your lawyer is going to make you do in a situation like this is shut up. Don't say nothing. And maybe his PR team is telling him to try to get out in front of something. Anybody think about that? Because he sure is saying that he doesn't do this and do that, and PR teams and lawyers and stuff, and he's sweating an awfully lot. Maybe he trying to get out in front of something. I don't know. I'm just talking.
When you are found at fault of breaking the law, do an apology video. So I think it was bad because nobody's going to believe him. And if nobody believes you, that means they think that you're faking your apology, which
he was faking it.
My opinion, further diminishes and disgraces your reputation. I don't think I would have done it. And if I would have done it, first of all, I would have never been guilty of that. So let me be clear. I would have never been guilty of that to have to do it. But in Puffy's case, if you're going to do a video, Puff, and apologize, I believe it should have been personally sent to Cassie. Even if you're going to do a separate one for the public, because she's the person you offended against. You didn't offend me.
Okay. All right. We stopping that. We are done with Jermaine Shoemaker here. Jermaine Shoemaker. No more doctor. No more doctor. Because he's a doctor of psychology. And he's suggesting that Diddy should have sent Cassie, who he physically, mentally, and emotionally abused. He should have sent her an apology tape. Isn't that another form of mental manipulation? This is a psychologist, a supposed psychologist, suggesting this. No more Dr. Umar. No more Dr. Umar. Jermaine Shoemaker. Or Shoemaker. Whatever his last name is. Yeah. Yeah. BurbankClothing.com. Peep the red hat. Peep the red hat. You see my Macho Man Randy Savage shirt. Y'all can't get this though. Burbank TV. I'm Charm. I'm out of here. Peace.